Hello and welcome to our today's lesson. Remember, this particular lesson is just a build-up of our previous lesson where we were looking at income. We had actually started looking at income. Maybe just a reminder, we looked at the different methods in which employees can be paid. We also went as far as looking at some terms that are used when we are calculating income. And those terms, were gross income, net income, and the deductions. So that is the prerequisite knowledge that you are supposed to have as we proceed with this particular lesson. And I also hope that you remember that for us to calculate net income, we said that this is actually the difference between the gross income and the deductions. The difference between the gross income and the deductions is what gave us net income. We also looked at how to carry out calculations involving hourly rate of payments. And under hourly rates of payments, we had two major categories. We had the normal. We also looked at hourly rates of payments. And under these hourly rates of payments, we had two categories. And our first category was the normal rates, that is under normal working periods. Normal rates of payment. This was actually under normal working hours. And when we were looking at the normal rates of payments, we said that this has a factor of 1 multiplied by the normal rates. When I'm talking about the factor, this particular factor implies under the normal working hours, the rates are just 1. But you should also remember that we had the two cases of overtime. And in the two cases of overtime, we had 1.5 time and the double time rate. So the 1.5 time is where we had, or we can just call it time and a half. Time and a half. This is where this particular rate actually changed. Remember, we are talking about time and a half. So the rate changes to 1.5, 1.5, multiplied by the normal rate. Multiplied by the normal rate. And lastly, we had the double time. Double time rate. This is where our factor here did change to double, that is 2 multiplied by the normal. the normal rates. And you should also remember that for us to calculate the normal rates, we actually took the normal working duration, that is, and also the income that a person earns under the normal working hours, total income under the normal working hours, divided by the duration during normal working hours, number of hours. In a normal working duration. This is what gave us normal rates. So the normal rates obtained from these particular relationships is this rate is the one that is applied across these three categories. And these two, we had said that this is actually what we call overtime. That is what we call overtime. That is what we call overtime. So I just want us to have this knowledge as we move on and try to look at the calculations, because in the previous lesson we had looked at how to calculate the gross income, the deductions, and the net income. We also looked at how to carry out calculations involving the normal rates of payment, the time and a half, and the double time rates. So in this particular lesson, we want to combine this. We want to combine these two concepts. We want to combine the two concepts, and that will lead us to looking at how to find gross and net income. Finding gross and net income, involving, or we can say including, overtime. In our calculations, we will be finding gross and net income, including the overtime. And to look at that, let us go straight to examples. And our first example Pauline is paid 13.20 per hour at the local stockyard. To mark out the stalls. Her normal hours of work are at 48 hours per week. She receives time and a half for the next 4 hours worked and double time after that. So we are having Pauline being paid, the normal rate is $13.20 per hour, and her normal working hours are 38 per week, and she receives time and a half for the next 4 hours and double time thereafter. And the questions are, what will be Pauline's gross income? If she works 50 hours, what will be her gross income? If she does work for 50 hours, and for us to get her gross income for the 50 hours, we need to calculate, the earnings under the various rates that we have before we sum up and get the total. Under the various rates before we sum up. To get our gross income. So, in essence, what I'm trying to say is that our gross income will be equal to the sum of earnings under normal rates plus the earnings under time and a half rates, and lastly you add up the earnings under double time. Rates. This will give us the gross income. And for us to separate them into these 3 categories for easy calculation, we need to know how many hours are under the normal rates, how many hours will be under the overtime. And in this case, the overtime is split into 2, under the time and a half and the double time. So we need to look at that. We go back to our question. Her normal working hours are 38. So the working hours here will be 38 hours. And for the next 4 hours, she will receive time and a half. Here we will have 4 hours. And for the remaining hours, she will receive double time. When we add 38 and 4, we get 42. So out of the total 50 hours that she did work in that week, those hours that will be affected by the double rates will be only 6 hours. That will be 6 hours. That will be 6 hours. So we are saying our gross income will be the sum of, and when we look at the under the normal rates, we know that that is basically it is actually basically affected by under normal rates. Under normal rates, this will be the product of number of hours multiplied by the rate multiplied by the amount under that normal rate. So under the normal rates, we are going to have the number of hours, 38 hours, multiplied by the rate. And when I talk about the rate, we are talking about the factors 1, 1.5, and 2. That is for the normal working hours, it is 1, and for time and a half, it is 1.5, while double is 2. Or 2.0. So this will be 38 multiplied by 1.0 multiplied by the amount in that particular category, which is 13.20. This should give us the earnings under the normal rates. We move on to the second part, where we are going to calculate the earnings under the time and a half. Under the time and a half, we still need to look at how many hours are under that particular category. And we have said those are 4 hours multiplied by the rate, which is 1.5 of the normal rates. 1.5 of the normal rates multiplied by the normal rates, which are 13.20. And lastly, we look at the income that will be calculated under double time rates. How many hours do we have under that category? 6 hours multiplied by the rates are at 2, that is double of the normal rates, which are $13.20. So this sum will give us her gross income. When we do this, from the first brackets here, we will get $501.60. In our second bracket, we will get $79.20, and in our third bracket we will get $211.20. When you add, her gross income will be equal to $792.0. This will be Pauline's gross income. That will be Pauline's gross income. Our second question is for us to calculate her net income. If Pauline pays a total of $220 per week in taxation and $4.75 in union fees, what will be her weekly net income? What will be her net weekly income? Remember, we have calculated our gross income. We have been given the two deductions that we have, the weekly deductions for taxation and also the weekly deductions for the union fees. And we have already learned that net income is equal to the difference between gross income and the total deductions. Our gross income is $792 and our total deductions are 220 plus 475. When we do this subtraction, we are going to get $567.25. This is the amount that Pauline will make in a week. 567.25. Let us now look at another example. That is our second example. We have a person by the name Henry. Henry is a farm manager. He is paid $17.55 per hour. At the farm. He normally works for 35 hours in a week. his overtime is rated as follows. The next 4 hours after normal is at time and a half. And the remaining duration at double time rate. In total, he works for 45 hours in a week. Calculate Henry's gross income in that week. That is the first question. That we have a person called Henry who is a farm manager. He is paid at a rate of $17.55 per hour at that particular farm. His normal working hours are 35 in a week, and for the next 4 hours after the 35 hours, he is paid at a rate of time and a half, and the remaining duration, which will actually be around 6 hours, he will be paid double. So our first question is for us to calculate his gross income in that particular week. And as I've said in the first example, for us to get the gross income, we need to calculate the income under the various categories or under the various rates that are stipulated in this particular question. So our gross income will be the sum of earnings under normal rates plus the earnings under time and a half and lastly will be the earnings under double time. So when you look at the earnings under the normal rates, how many hours do we have under the normal rate? Normal hours in a week are 35, and at the rate of 1.0 of the normal rates, which are 17.55, Under the time and a half, how many hours? We are told for the next 4 hours. After 35 hours, this will be 4. And the rates here will be time and a half, 1.5 of the normal rates, which are $17.55 per hour. And lastly, we have 6 hours under double time, and the rates are 2.0 of the normal rates. This will give us in the first bracket, we are going to have $614.25. In the second bracket, we are going to have $105.30, and in our third bracket we are going to have $210.60. In fact, when you look at the different earnings that this particular person is making, you will discover that in the first bracket he is working so many hours to make just $614.25. But in the double time, he only works for 6 hours and is already making $210.60. So these different rates are there to encourage this particular farm manager to work for the overtimes so that he can earn more. And the total will be $930.15. This is the gross income that Henry will make. The gross income, this is the income before the deductions are made. Let us move on to the second question. This was just but the first question. And the second question is, his total taxation and union dues adds up to 5% of his gross income. Calculate. Roman 1, calculate his total deductions. His total deductions. We are told that his total taxation and union dues, which are the two components of deductions that we have in this particular case, amounts to 5% of his gross income, and our gross income is $930.15. So we are required to calculate his total deductions. We are told that the total deductions are 5% of his gross income. This will be 5. We express 5% in form of a fraction, which is 5 out of 100, and off simply means multiplication. So we multiply that fraction by his gross income, which is $930.15, and this will give us $46.51. This answer has been rounded off to 2 decimal places. So total deductions will amount to $46.51. The next question, question 2, part 2, we are required to calculate his net income in a week. That is weekly net income. And as we know, income is equal to the difference between gross income and the deductions. So net weekly income will basically mean the difference between gross weekly income minus total deductions in a week. And this, the gross weekly income is $930.15. Our total deductions we have calculated up here, which are actually $46.51, and this will give us a weekly income, net income, a weekly net income of $883.64. Our last question is for us to calculate annual net income. Annual net income. Remember, what we've just calculated here is the weekly net income. So that basically means in 1 week, net income is equal to $883.64. How many weeks do we have annually? That is in a year. Those are 52 weeks. So that means 52 weeks will have a net income of 52 multiplied by the net income in a week, which is $883.64 divided by the week. Week and week will cancel, and this will actually give us $45,949.28. So Henry's net annual income, that is after the deductions, will be $45,949.28. I know at this particular point you can be able even to calculate the total deductions, the total annual deductions. That question was not asked, but you can be able to try and calculate it when you are revising. So having looked at those two examples, I now want to give you an exercise that we'll try to solve during revision, so that you are assured of having grasped the content. So in the first column we have hourly rates. In the second column we have normal hours worked. In the third column we have time and a half rates. Here we have double time rates. In the first column we have hourly rates. In the second column we have normal hours worked. In the third column we have time and a half hours worked. In the fourth we have double time hours. Here we have gross income. Then in this sixth column we have deductions. And lastly, we have the net income. Have the net income. And in the first row, the number of hours, the hourly rates are $15. Normal hours worked are supposed to be 38. Time and a half hours, none. Double time hours, none. We are supposed to calculate gross income, given that our deductions amounts to $155. And having calculated the gross income, we will also be able to calculate the net income, because it is basically the difference between the gross income and the deductions. In our second row, the rates are $24 per hour. The normal working hours per week are 38. Time and a half hours are 2. We don't have double time. And the total deductions are $220. We do the same. We calculate the gross income and also the net income and fill in those blank spaces. In our third row, the rates are $13.15 per hour. The normal working hours in a week are 35. Time and a half hours are 4. The double time is only 1 hour. The deductions amounts to $510. So we calculate the gross income and the net income. And lastly, the rates are 70 per hour, normal rates. The normal working hours are 40 in a week. Double time is 2 hours. Time and a half are 2 hours. Then double time is 3 hours. Then we effect a total deductions of $300. We are supposed to fill these blank spaces. We are supposed to fill those blank spaces. So as you revise, try to look at this particular assignment. And from this, I now want us to move on and look at something different. Which is somehow related to this. 2 examples that we have just done. Remember, we've been looking at hourly payments and the different rates of payments based on the hourly rates. So I want us now to move on and look at something else whereby we can have various shifts. By shifts, I mean we can have the morning shift where you come to work in the morning, those morning hours. Somebody else might come in to take cover, that is in the afternoon shifts, and someone else might work during the night shift. So we want to look at how to calculate the shift work, calculating the shift work. Under the shift work, we might have different rates for the different shifts. The hourly rates might differ. If you work the hourly rates might differ. For example, we might have a shift that starts from 6 a.m. and ends at 2 p.m. This shift can be calculated at a rate of $12 per hour. $12 per hour, and this shift is taken to be the regular shift. This is taken to be the regular shift or the morning shift. We can also have another shift that starts from 2 p.m. and ends at 10 p.m. and this shift can have a normal rate of $14.30 per hour. This is actually taken to be the afternoon shift. The afternoon shift. And we can have a third shift which can start from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. This shift can have a rate of $16.80 per hour, and this shift is taken to be the night shift. It is taken to be the night shift. So looking at the three shifts that we have, you realize that this morning shift, the shift that starts from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., its rates are a bit low, just $12 per hour. But as time goes by, from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., the rates have improved. They have actually increased from $12 to $14.3 per hour. And that last shift in a day, that is the night shift. It is the highly paid because it has the highest rates at $16.80 per hour. Maybe to illustrate this, I would want to look at I would want us to look at an example so that we are able to look at these particular rates, different rates in the various shifts vis-a-vis the shifts themselves. Michael is a shift worker. Michael is a shift worker and is paid So Michael is a shift worker and is paid $10.6 per hour for the morning shifts, $12.34 per hour for the afternoon shifts, and $16.78 per hour for the night shift. Each shift is 8 hours. In a given fortnight, he works 4 mornings, 2 afternoons, and 3 nights. Calculate his gross income. Calculate his gross income. Calculate his gross income. For us to get his gross income, we will have to calculate the earnings per shift under the different shifts. The earnings under the different shifts. And for the morning shift, we are actually told he did work 4 morning shifts. 4 morning shifts. So that the number of hours will be 4. The number of shifts will be 4 multiplied by the number of hours, so that we can get the total number of hours that this particular person works the morning shifts. And then you multiply by the rates, and the rates for the morning are $10.6. Then we add on those afternoon shifts. How many were they? Those afternoon shifts were only 2. And we were told all shifts lasts 8 hours. Multiply by the afternoon rates are 12.34. And lastly, we look at the night shift. Michael did work 3 night shifts. Each shift is 8 hours, and the rates are $16.78 per hour. This will give us a total of $939.36. That this will be his gross income. This will be his gross income. It is somehow related to the first 2 examples that we did look at, but in this particular case, we don't have the normal rates, the time and a half, and the doubles. We only have different shifts, and these different shifts are compensated differently. The rates varies from one shift to another. So when you are carrying out these particular calculations, I expect you to factor in the different rates per shift. And you need to get the total hours worked in the different shifts. Like in the first case, we have 4 morning shifts, and every shift is 8 hours. And the rates are $10.6 per hour. So we calculate that. And for the afternoons shifts, how many shifts do we have? 2. A shift is 8 hours. So the total number of hours worked in the afternoon are 2 times 8, which is 16, multiplied by the rates. The afternoon rates are $12.38, and same to the night shifts, which will give us this. So I hope you have understood this particular concept, and I'm really looking forward to meet you in my next class so that we can look at something new. Thank you and welcome.